Someone told me recently that lockdown didn't create new things in us, it just accentuated that which was already there. Well, if that's true, then I've found out that I'm very much a rule keeper, not a rebel, much cooler though that might sound. I like to know what's what. I like to know where I am, what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do, and what's coming next. Which means I've struggled a bit with coming out of lockdown just as much as I struggled with going into it. At least when we were in lockdown it was nice and clear, wasn't it? Now it's lovely to see everybody again, but there are far more grey areas. In the beginning, we knew that we had to stay inside, and I was fine with that. We could go outside if it was essential or for a daily walk. So the kids and the dogs and I would go out and we would have a nice walk around once a day. And I would go out and do those bits of my job that I knew were really essential. Things like going and visiting in a hospital or going to a funeral. It was quite clear in my mind what I should and I shouldn't do. I didn't go out for anything else. Now though, everything's blurred a bit. Everybody seems to be doing things a little bit differently, interpreting the guidance this way or that way. I'm not entirely sure I know what I'm meant to be doing. And it turns out that I've bred a rule keeper too, or at least one of them. And as I've taken him out little by little, I've had to stop him going, call that 2 metres, as we negotiate shops and parks. It turns out he finds it a bit difficult to be told to do one thing and watch other people do something else too. And I suspect the two of us are not alone. It's hard to be responsible just for ourselves and not worry about how other people are behaving and what other people are doing. To start with, of course, our own actions don't just impact on us, do they? Our actions often do have an impact on those around us, the people we share this world with. It's not just what I do is okay for me and it doesn't matter to anybody else. But it's more than that. What I had to tell him, and what I had to learn myself just as much, was that there's nothing I can do when I worry about how other people might interpret rules. I'm worrying about something I have no control over. I'm worrying too about something that really isn't my business, unless it's directly impacting on me or on another person that I feel is vulnerable. Then actually it doesn't matter. I've got to do what I believe is right, and they've got to do what they believe is right in their situation. That's quite a hard lesson to learn, or at least I'm finding it a hard lesson to learn. In today's gospel, Jesus sends out his disciples. He gives them authority. He gives them authority to tell people about the kingdom, to tell people about what he's here to do, and to do remarkable things in his name, to heal disease and to cast out unclean spirits. He tells them that some places, some households will receive that message with joy. They'll get it straight away. But of course other people won't. They won't understand, or perhaps they'll disagree, perhaps they'll reject. And he tells them not to dwell on the ones that don't take on board the message, not to worry about the ones who reject them, not to spend time cajoling or convincing, trying to change the outcome. Instead, shake the dust from their sandals and move on. And sometimes we need to do the same thing. Not always, but sometimes in some circumstances. And this isn't saying that there is one truth for me and one truth for somebody else and that that's okay. It's a subtly different way of thinking about life and faith. We need to tell people about our faith. We need to tell people of the ways in which we've experienced God, of the ways in which we see the kingdom breaking into the world all the time, in all sorts of amazing ways. And of course we need to rejoice when people join in, when they respond excitedly and say, gosh, that happened to me. Do you think that might have been God? Or I agree, this is something new, something exciting, something I want to be part of. But not everybody will react in that way. And of course, it's important for us to be responsible not just for ourselves, but for our society, to make sure we're part of conversations, all conversations that involve shaping the world and the culture in which we live. We want to be people who make it a place that reflects kingdom values, a place that does not have prejudice, a place without greed, a place without suffering. But we also need to remember that as much as we want to be involved in those things, as much as we want to transform those things, very often the only choice that we can make is the choice we make about our own lives and our own actions. We have a responsibility for the lives we choose to lead. Many of the things that we might criticise in others, we can actually see reflected in ourselves. Our job is not to criticise them. Our job is to look inwards and see what needs to change within ourselves. We need to be responsible for the response that we make to God's offer of free love and friendship and salvation. We can't make anybody else believe. We can tell them the stories, but the rest is up to the Holy Spirit. Our job is to look really carefully at our own response. Have we accepted that love? Do we perhaps need to return to it? Are we living in a way that reflects that love so freely given? So I'm learning again and again, not to worry about what other people think and say and do. What they may or may not believe is a good idea. And probably even more importantly, I'm learning not to blame my actions or justify my behaviour by what they choose to do and say. I must respond as me. That's all I can offer, and that's all I am able to do. Each Sunday we use a collect or a special prayer for the day. Often there's an alternative one that's a bit shorter and a bit clearer than the traditional version. And it's that alternative collect that I'd like to end my sermon with today. It's my prayer for me, and it's my prayer that you'll choose to pray it for yourself and walk in the way of love and wisdom today and every day. God of truth, help us to keep your law of love and to walk in the ways of wisdom that we may find true life. In Jesus Christ, your Son. Amen.